We're still waiting. All right, we're going to hear from a couple different speakers now. Hello? Hey, everybody, what's up, comrades? Woo! What's up, fascist scum? Now, y'all are both here. What I'm about to say does not reflect on the General Defense Committee of the IWW, but hey, this campus is about freedom of speech, right? So sometimes that shit can work both ways. That said, I'm here today as a Seattle resident, not a UW student. If alt-right trolls were being invited to speak at the bar on the corner, and if white nationalists were being allowed to organize there, I don't have to be a patron of that bar in order to call that bar out, and if necessary, shut it down. Yeah. That said, I am not a UW student, but I am here today to oppose, with all tactics at my disposal, the University of Washington itself. There's an old joke I'd like to invoke for this situation. A liberal and a radical are on a street corner. They see a houseless person panhandling. The liberal shakes their head and says, "See, the system isn't working." The radical says, "Yes, it is." Fuck yeah! That said, I don't know why my comrades or anyone here is expressing shock at any of the events of January 20th of this year. I am not surprised that UW elevates the supposed right of a white man to say whatever the fuck he wants above the very real human rights of people of color, immigrants, women, queer and trans folk to be safe from the very real violence that their hate speech leads to. Yeah. I am not surprised that violent psychopaths can come here, shoot someone almost fatally at point-blank range in a crowd of hundreds, and turn themselves in to campus police, only to be released an hour later without so much as a hair on their heads being harmed. And I am not surprised that 10 days later, and even today, non-violent protesters were punched and kicked and throttled by UW-PD on the same campus for merely trying to access the public administration building to have a conversation with a university official. This is not incompetence, this is intentional. The University of Washington does not tolerate fascism. It actively supports, develops, and encourages fascism. It exists to promote the white supremacy, rape culture, heteropatriarchy, ecocide, and toxic individualism with which Western civilization has been infecting us since its originators descended from the Caucasus Mountains to colonize the rest of the planet. The campus Republicans and the white student union are not aberrations. They are the status quo in U.S.-occupied Turtle Island, and especially at UW, here on stolen Duwamish land. UW exists to grow, through competition and coercion, the next generation of ruthless lawyers, scientists, and politicians who will, without compunction or compassion, grab people by the pussy until they reach the presidency and make this country, founded on the genocide of the native and the enslavement of the African, great again. Women, queer and trans people, people of color, immigrants, even poor and working class white people. What are you doing here? If you genuinely want to live in a different world, a better world than the one men like Donald Trump and Milo have forced upon us for hundreds and hundreds of years, please stop participating in their academic industrial complex. We don't need these evil white men. We don't need to internalize their death-worshipping values. Yeah. We don't need to sell our souls and disrespect our ancestors for the dubious privilege privilege of being taught to think and behave like them. Please, divest your money and your bodies from the University of Washington. I know it's hard, but it is worth it. We owe it to our children and to the planet. Let's shift the paradigm from assimilation to self-determination. Let's build our own cultural, economic, and educational institutions, and let's burn this fascist think tank to the fucking ground!
All right, let's hear it for our comrade! Some serious truth to power right there. I hope Marie's listening. All right, we're going to hear from another one of our comrades here.
We are here at the administrative building at the University of Washington because
It might be better if you...
along with UW PD, the UW administration has time and time again shown a complete unwillingness and inability to adequately address the concerns of this community around the increasingly hostile environment on campus, essentially supporting the racist and misogynistic alt-right. President Kelsey did nothing but adamantly defend the decision to bring Milo Yiannopoulos to campus despite months of warnings of potential violence, petitions with thousands of signatures, and Nazi posters appearing on campus prior. She, as the face of the University of Washington, is largely responsible for this mess in the first place. We find it laughable that President Kaus thinks that UW is a safe and welcoming campus for all, when the actions of her and the administration only serve to further embolden and protect ideologies centered around the harm of others. I was recently admitted to UW's Master of Education program, starting in fall 2017. I'm standing here on Prospective Students Day, not asking myself about the type of classes I'm going to take or the professors that are going to be teaching me, but I'm asking myself if I'll be safe here on campus. Woo! Especially after what we just witnessed at the Hub.
Yeah!
I'm wondering if I can bring people that I care about and love to visit me on this campus. I'm asking myself if the university, cares about me at all besides the way my tuition affects their bottom line. So far, the UW administration has failed by every metric I can think of to keep its students safe and has willfully ignored serious threats to campus safety before, during, and after January 20th. I am also asking myself if I want to be a part of an institution that talks about literal Nazi flyers threatening racial genocide by saying some people will find that offensive. Who here finds that offensive?
Yeah!
Does genocide offend anybody here?
Hell yeah!
And the University PD's advice to students was, if you find that offensive, just don't go near it. Stay away from that, is the actual quote. I'm asking if I can invest myself and my future in an institution that knew the likelihood of lethal violence at this event on January 20th and didn't care. They are responsible for my friend being shot here on Red Square. And even worse than that, they still don't give a shit. They still aren't sorry. They still have not apologized. They haven't taken any responsibility for the harm that they have caused to my friend and this community. In the weeks since January 20th, multiple organizations, unions, and working groups have come forward to deliver demands to this administration. And thus far, these demands have been categorically ignored by the administration. Because this right here is where demands go to die.
Yeah!
The good news is that while the administration is stuck up there trying to navigate legal restrictions in a system of codified white supremacy, appease wealthy conservative funders, and by placing a higher priority on misguided notion of free speech at the expense of safety for already marginalized community members, there's plenty that we can be doing right here to address these demands ourselves. Because remember, an injury to one is an injury to all.
An injury to one is an injury to all!
An injury to one is an injury to all! An
injury to one is an injury to all! An injury to one is an injury to all! An injury to one is an injury to all! An injury to one is an injury to all! Let's hear it for
who has found themselves under near constant attack since January 20th for a group that purports to support so dearly the right to free speech. You would think that people from the campus community who are doing their own types of organizing would not find themselves under attack. Unfortunately, we know that this free speech argument is bullshit. We know that they don't care about free speech. They care about hate. They care about genocide. They care about making people uncomfortable and unsafe. So let's hear from another member of the community.
Hello. Thank you for coming out and listening today. I see that our major intended audience is congregating just over there. And one of those people over there was involved in an incident where someone with him, and he's a college Republican, purple hat, hey Alex Guerrero, how are you? Attempted to assault me for being in their general vicinity. And then, this is the real problem with our justice system. When the police showed up because they were called by an onlooker, as I was restraining her on the ground and she was screaming, "I'm going to kill you," repeatedly, they showed up and she said, "This woman attacked me."
Your friend
I didn't.
Your girlfriend.
She came at me and I restrained her. And this is why we're seeking restorative justice instead of justice through the justice system. It incentivizes people like Karina and like Alex over there to do things like lie. If you look at the police report, they also had another friend with them and they pretended they didn't know that person. It's not okay for the police, who are brutal whenever we try and speak up, to try and silence us. And it's not okay for people like that to feel as though they can lie and get away with things. That's why we're here asking for restorative justice. You can come forward, you can admit it, you can say sorry. We're waiting for an apology because they asked me repeatedly if I wanted to press charges, and I said no.
No collaboration.
Because that's not gonna fix anything. Some idiot college kid who happened to make a little mistake like that? No. I don't want to see their lives ruined and see them hate us forever. I'd rather you fucking apologize. So thank you for coming out today and hearing us out and learning a little bit about what's been going on this campus, because they've been trying really hard to keep it quiet. Don't give up. Stick together and organize, because that's the only way that we're going to be able to keep our community safe. Thank you.
We've got yet another speaker to share yet another story about how they have found themselves under attack by members of the far right, some of whom are standing right over there since January 20th. So let's give it up for another one of the victims of this environment that Anna Marie and the UWPD have cultivated here on campus. Mic check! Mic check! Mic check!
Mic check!
Mic check!
Mic check!
Hey everyone. So my name is Alan Michael Weatherford. I'm an instructor here at the University of Washington, and I teach both post-colonial studies and queer of color critique. So I just wanted to let you know that on January 20th, I, along with several others, engaged in a series of teach-ins in the Odegaard Undergraduate Library, during and after which a lot of us were targeted by alt-right members. The methods by which this targeting happened are sly and well-planned. People simply video recording, entering into spaces under the guise of quote-unquote wanting to listen and to learn, to incite then reactions so that they can then subsequently post people's faces and personal information online, whether that be through YouTube, 4chan, 8chan, the Daily Stormer, etc. The morning after, I started to receive innumerable messages at 4 a.m. that, among other things, threatened my physical safety. I then sought recourse through the university, and my case ultimately went, and not willingly, to the federal level. After so many emails, phone calls, and meetings with the president, Anamari, my department, Safe Campus, UW-PD, Title IX, our union, UAW, Local 4121, UW-IT, the Incident Bias Report people, and the FBI, I stand here before you with still nothing as a result. I have been ping-ponged between various bureaucratic offices that make themselves and others feel better because they're, quote, doing everything they can, end quote. But what, in fact, are they doing? To be clear, I have met with really nice people who have frequently told me how sad they are that I have had to go through this entire ordeal, but that ultimately there is nothing they could really do. While this might be shocking to you or seemingly the new normal for some of us, I want us to remember that this has been the norm for many others for a very long time. In fact, I don't really want to center my experience here. I don't want to create yet another narrative that generates sympathy for a white male despite being openly queer. Instead, I want to highlight 5 things for you. 1. I want us to think about those to whom this happens all the time, but who may not have the same access to the resources that I do to be heard. This is all the more alarming when Safe Campus told me that the ultimate plan was to wait and hope that my harassers get bored and move on to someone else. More specifically, I want us to think and do something about the ongoing rationalized violence and lack of response that happens to our fellow Muslim, immigrant, indigenous, black, queer, trans, and women-identified friends. 3, I want us to think about how liberal institutions like UW pay magical amounts of lip service in the forms of blog posts, emails, empty meetings, and showing up to the ASU Dub Senate, yet it gets nearly nothing done to help the conditions of minoritized folks unless their capital is threatened. 4, I want us to think about how liberal institutions like UW cannot think through power, systems, and history. As an equalizer, liberalism tells us that we are all, in theory, on the same footing. Yet in reality and materially, this is not true. We don't live in a vacuum. We live in and through power. Given that liberalism is invested in the individual, it cannot understand systemic norms and normative logic. There is always just a few bad eggs in the group, their idiosyncrasies to be snuffed out. The current climate of our campus is only controllable when we locate it in quote-unquote mean and unreasonable individuals. But the same individuals that do this harassing are the good, reasonable children of those that have historically built our very institution. The overall system is thought to be a good one instead of one built on colonial venture, capitalist exploitation. Lastly, liberalism only recounts the favorable aspects of history. It engages in selective amnesia. At what point did we all become equal? When did colonialism ever end? When did systems of exploitation cease to exist? 5, the UW is not here to help. It never was. Need I remind you that we are standing on occupied indigenous land, that the builders of this campus raised an indigenous village and then locked them out of the means of their own knowledge production. For some of you, you may boil this all down to an issue of free speech, and quite frankly, I'm not interested in that question. In fact, I could care less, because that means 1, you have yet to seriously engage with what I have just said, and 2, that question is at base such an intellectually bankrupt inquiry. It will lead nowhere. I want us to think through the contradictions of capitalism that want our labor as minoritized folks, but will never have our backs or grant us the same material privileges. Instead, they exploit us as tokens for their diversity programs and diversity hires. The University of Washington is not our answer, and its silence in the wake of the shooting and in the faces of all the other minoritized folks who are constantly targeted should be louder than thunder to you. We have to keep taking care of each other in the face of institutions that were built to crush us. But that taking care of each other cannot be through liberal forms of unity. To all the others that go through this on the daily, I am here for you. I will help build the communities we want to live in. Love and in solidarity, your cuck, Antifa faggot, and special snowflake.
Do we have anybody else who wants to share their experiences of the environment that UWPD and the UW administration have allowed to fester upon their campus?
All right.
Hey y'all.
Mic check.
Hey. So I go to UW Bothell. So we just want to let this be known that after the shooting happened here, we were not told exactly what happened up at UW, to the point where a lot of people don't know what happened. So I just want to point out that while this is happening here, and this is dope, I want to say that y'all are here. I also want to point out that UW, we're here too. We want to show you that we are here. This is not just a one campus issue. And I also want to point out that there's a lot of physical violence that happened, but we also need to point out that the school has a couple problems with sexual assault cases that are currently being under investigation right now. So with that being said, I want to ask all of you who are here, who are taking this seriously, who are standing up for the cause, to be there for your friends and your community when we start getting the messages to say, shut up, I'm gonna fucking rape you, bitch, because I'm getting real tired of getting those text messages and those emails and Facebook messages just because I'm out here trying to tell y'all that it's not okay to go and rape people. That is my crime. So, I want to say, we gotta fight all types of violence. It's not just physical violence, it's not just violence against one group, it's everybody. Everybody on this campus! UW Bothell and Tacoma, we need to take this seriously because this is a three-campus issue, okay? It's not just this one, and we see that up at UW, and we are here to stand in solidarity with y'all.
An injury to one is an injury to all. An injury to one is an injury to all. An injury to one is an injury to all. An injury to one is an injury to all. An injury to one is an injury to all. An injury to one is an injury to all. It's an injury to all.
All right, folks, thank you very much to everybody who came out today, to everybody who shared their story today, to everybody who stood shoulder to shoulder to make sure that these racist pigs did not snatch one of our own. For those of you in the student body, we are not here as the GDC to ask you to join us. What we are here to do is to tell you that we want to support your organizing. We want to support your projects. So if you need help, if you need solidarity, and you need bodies out there side by side with you, then contact us, the Greater Seattle GDC, and we will support your efforts on your terms. Now listen, as we disperse, it is very important that we leave in small groups. Do not leave by yourself. There are violent individuals, many of whom are wearing badges, who are waiting to snatch you as you leave. Please leave with a group of friends. We have posters that if anybody wants to go around campus in smaller groups and put up posters, you can grab some and get them to you. But please, let's make sure that we disperse together and safely. Thank you everybody for coming out.
Thank you.